It's 2023 and the Rolex Submariner remains one of the most iconic models in the market. But does its iconic status still mean it's worth your money? In today's world, it doesn't take a lot for a watch or anything else to get hyped. A few influential people can create a buzz, and their followers would almost mindlessly consume its hype. With that in mind, could the insanely hyped Rolex Submariner be one of those overrated accessories on the market? It's either still got the GOAT or an elaborate hoax. In the world of horology, there is a strong claim that the Submariner isn't just the greatest watch ever made by Rolex, but also the greatest timepiece across the globe. Believe it or not, the claim is so widely believed that you'd be genuinely hard-pressed to find any passionate watch enthusiast or fan of another brand bold enough to refute it. When Rolex first introduced the timepiece in the mid-50s, little did they know it'd grow to eventually become one of the most sought-after watches on the planet. Its insane versatility and timelessness have arguably made it the poster boy for the luxury brand. Even amateur enthusiasts who hardly know much about luxury watches can easily identify the Submariner as part of the Rolex umbrella. However, there is one big problem. Due to its ever-growing popularity and poor ratio in terms of availability, watch enthusiasts who have been drooling at the Submariner have to look inwards and ask themselves the big question: is the hassle of adding a Submariner to my collection worth it? Is the timepiece even worth the hype? You'd be pleased to know the answer to both these questions is yes, and here are some reasons to further buttress this. What's a better way to start than referencing why the Submariner is so loved in the first place? That's right, we're talking about its glowing history. Over the years, the Rolex Submariner has made its mark on the watch world and left its imprint, making it a notable timepiece and a must-buy for every seasoned collector. But how exactly? It all started in 1953 when Rolex first brought the timepiece into the limelight. Despite being among its first ever dive watches to be produced, that alone was far from being good enough for Rolex. In their bid to make the Submariner stand out, they made sure it could dive deeper than any other watch, thanks to its water resistance of 100 meters or 330 feet. Do you remember when the Rolex Submariner was featured in the James Bond films? That cemented its place in history. It's widely believed Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond's favourite timepiece, or at least one of his favourites, is the Rolex Explorer. Yet, his love for it couldn't stop him from picking the Submariner ahead of anyone else. Do you remember the 50th anniversary edition of the Rolex Submariner in 2003? It dared to be released in an iconic green bezel at the time when the world was used to yellow gold and two-tone models that were already eye-catching. At first, it was a bit avoided. People probably thought the green bezel was too unique for its good. But what happened next? Not only did the uncertainty quickly become total adoration, but also it was a success. More recently, in 2010, Rolex introduced a highly fade and scratch-resistant Cerachrome ceramic bezel to the Submariner. It was initially thought to be a move too daring for even Rolex, but again, everyone still trooped to it. Even when Rolex upgraded its case size from 40 to 41 millimeters, it was still treasured by everyone. With such a rich history of its significant impact and appeal to the watch world, the Submariner has left a gigantic mark on the world of horology. Watches like these don't just fade out into obscurity. They will always be the Rolex to buy, regardless of being used or brand new. Speaking of its history, how else can we proceed without talking about its classic, timeless design? Before we dive into it though, is there any brand better than Rolex that knows how to improve and modernize iconic, legendary models as the years go by while maintaining its soul? The answer is none. You will find some significant differences when you compare vintage references with modern-day Submariners. For starters, the older references have aluminium bezels rather than the fade and scratch-resistant ceramic variants you'd find on newer references. The technology is even different. The newer references perform far better than the vintage references of the iconic dive watch. However, here's what we find most impressive. Despite all of the aforementioned tweaks, did you know the core design of the Rolex Submariner remains untouched? Even if you place the latest references of the Submariner side by side with the ones used in the Sean Connery James Bond movies, you'd easily depict the same core design. Plus, the Rolex Submariner has an unmatched timelessness. On every occasion, for any attire and anyone, the Submariner remains the timepiece to beat. Just as it was classy 50 years ago, it remains the same today. 50 years from now, it's still going to be an amazing option. While there are admittedly more technologically advanced dive watches in comparison to the Submariner, in terms of its iconic status and timelessness, it stands head and shoulders above the rest. As if that wasn't enough, did you know Rolex Submariner watches remain one of the most reliable and durable watches you'd find? Or at least not so easily in today's market. Make no mistake, Rolex timepieces have been around for a long time. With that in mind, it's safe to say they've learned the basics and inner workings of how to build a watch to last. Thankfully, the Submariner is one of them. It comes with an oyster case that gives it solid protection from the age-old foe of watches, moisture. Plus, the Rolex Submariner has been proven to perform well against dust and bad weather. Another thing worth mentioning about the Rolex Submariner is its sheer simplicity and versatility. As a dive watch, it's fair to say the Rolex Submariner was made to deep dive into the ocean with its daring professional diver owner. But would it be fair to say that that's the only purpose of the Rolex Submariner? You see, the watch is so versatile that in today's world, the closest to water the average Submariner comes across is in the sink when its owner washes his or her hands. Perhaps one may even say in the shower, given how a lot of owners find their Rolex Submariners to be an inseparable extension of their arm. We're trying to say that in today's world, the iconic Submariner has gone from being a professional dive watch to a luxury sports watch for day-to-day activities. Considering that the Submariner has a glowing reputation, high price and a status reserved for legends, it's safe to say it's gone from a tool watch to a status symbol. In terms of its design, the classic feel of the Submariner is truly one to behold. It's elegant, it's clean, and given how it was originally a dive watch, it is surprisingly versatile. If you are looking for a watch to use as a daily diver, regardless of a casual or dressy occasion, good luck finding one that beats the Submariner. In demanding conditions, the Submariner reigns supreme. In lesser demanding scenarios, such as a date with your heartthrob, guess what? The Submariner easily beats the competition too. To further buttress how amazing the versatility of the Rolex Submariner is, did you know it's available in several different colours and varying metal types? While most collectors and fans of the Submariner alike would readily admit the variant to get are the stainless steel versions, if you're a fan of gold, you're in luck. There are also full gold variants. With that in mind, there will always be a Rolex Submariner for everyone. So with everything that's been said and done, is the Rolex Submariner still a good watch to buy? Again, an easy answer to the question would be yes. It is a timeless, iconic watch that is remarkably known to maintain its value over the years, and sometimes even appreciated, regardless of the fact that it has been on the receiving end of a lot of day-to-day use. Despite the wide range of varying materials and colours that have made it into the features of the Submariner archives over the years, the legendary dive watch has been able to maintain its consistent and timeless design. Did you know people even believe every dive watch in today's world was, one way or another, influenced by the Submariner? Given how it is widely praised and sought after by enthusiasts, it's hardly any surprise why a lot of seasoned collectors refer to the Submariner as a grail piece. With the demand yet to collapse despite it being around since 1953, the Submariner would continue to be one of the most talked about and hyped watches in existence. Curious about the funny part? Things wouldn't be changing anytime soon. With that in mind, if you're looking to buy one of the best watches you can, the Rolex Submariner remains a difficult option to forsake.